Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for joining today. So we'll begin with the prayers, and then I will also start sharing the screen for the verses that we'll be reading today. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So the format is usually we pick a few verses from where we left off the previous day and we read through it. So we have been reading from Canto 4, Chapter 18, Ritu Maharaj Milks the Earth Planet. And we completed 5 verses, but I'm just going to go back because we didn't get a full opportunity to discuss all the verses. So we'll begin reading again from verse 4 through 8 today. Would you like to read, Prabhu?
Okay. You want me to read?
Yes, Prabhu, that will be nice.
Okay, let me just get that.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, hang on a second. I just have to do this on my laptop to see the screen properly. On the phone, it's not really. Oh, hang on. I can zoom. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
But hang on a sec. Okay, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 4. Tan ati stati ya samyag upayan purvadarsitam avara stradaya yopeta upayan vindate nyata. You normally read the word for word also?
No, Prabhu, we just read the translation and the purport.
Okay. Translation. One who follows the principles and instructions enjoined by the great sages of the past can utilize these instructions for practical purposes. Such a person can very easily enjoy life and pleasures. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. The Vedic principles, Mahajano Yena Gata Sapantaha, urge us to follow in the footsteps of great liberated souls. In this way, we can receive benefit in both this life and the next, and we can also improve our material life. By following the principles laid down by great sages and saints of the past, we can very easily understand the aim of all life. The word avara, meaning inexperienced, is very significant in this verse. Every conditioned soul is inexperienced. Everyone is a bodha jata, born a fool and rascal. In democratic government at the present moment, all kinds of fools and rascals are making decisions. But what can they do? What is the result of their legislation? They enact something today just to whimsically repeal it tomorrow. One political party utilizes the country for one purpose, and the next moment another political party forms a different type of government and nullifies all the laws and regulations. This process of chewing the chews, puna punas charvita charavanam, will never make human society happy. In order to make all human society happy and prosperous, we should accept the standard methods given by liberated persons. Do you normally comment at this stage?
Prabhu, we usually read all the texts and then we go back to sharing. So would you like to continue reading?
Okay. So you go to another text?
So we were planning to read from 4 through 8 today.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you read the rest, and then if you want, I can.
Sure. Yeah. Text 5. Tan anadritya yo vidvan artha arabhate swayam tasya vyabhicharanti artha arabdhischa puna puna. Translation. A foolish person who manufactures his own ways and means through mental speculation and does not recognize the authority of the sages who lay down unimpeachable directions is simply unsuccessful again and again in his attempts. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the present moment, it has become fashionable to disobey the unimpeachable directions given by the acharyas and liberated souls of the past. Presently, people are so fallen that they cannot distinguish between a liberated soul and a conditioned soul. A conditioned soul is hampered by 4 defects. He's sure to commit mistakes. He's sure to become illusion. He has a tendency to cheat others, and his senses are imperfect. Consequently, we have to take direction from liberated persons. This Krishna consciousness movement directly receives instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead via persons who are strictly following his instructions. Although a follower may not be a liberated person, if he follows the Supreme Liberated Personality of Godhead, his actions are naturally liberated from the contamination of the material nature. Lord Chaitanya therefore says, by my order, you become a spiritual master. One can immediately become a spiritual master by having full faith in the transcendental words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by following his instructions. Materialistic men are not interested in taking directions from a liberated person, but they are very much interested in their own concocted ideas, which make them repeatedly fail in their attempts. Because the entire world is now following the imperfect directions of conditioned souls, humanity is completely bewildered. Text 6. Looks like Primarisa has also joined. Primarisa, are you able to read or should we just read?
I don't have a book, but I can read from the screen.
Sure.
Okay, text 6. Pura shastra hi osatyayo brahmanaye vishampate bhujyamana maya drishta ashadbhir drishta vratai. My dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs, and grains which were created by Lord Brahma in the past are now being used by non devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. Lord Brahma created this material world for the use of living entities, but it was created according to a plan that all living entities who might come into it to dominate it for sense gratification would be given directions by Lord Brahma in the Vedas in order that they might ultimately leave it and return home back to Godhead. All necessities grown on earth, namely fruits, flowers, trees, grains, animals, and animal byproducts, were created for use in sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. However, the planet Earth, in the shape of cow, herein submits that all these utilities are being used by non devotees who have no plans for spiritual understanding. Although there is an immense potency within the earth for the production of grains, fruits, and flowers, this production is checked by the earth itself when it is misused by non devotees who have no spiritual goals. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything can be used for his satisfaction. Things should not be used for sense gratification of the living entities. This is the whole plan of material nature according to the directions of this material nature. In this verse, the words asha, ashad dibhi, asad bihi and adrishta vratai are important. The word asad bihi refers to the non-devotees. The non-devotees have been described in Bhagavad Gita as dushkritina, miscreants, mudha, asses or rascals, naradhama, lowest of mankind, and maya, aprita jnana, those who have lost their knowledge to the power of the illusory energy. All these persons are asat, non-devotees. Non-devotees are called grihavrata, whereas the devotees are called Dhritavrata. The whole Vedic plan is that the misguided conditioned souls who have come to lord it over material nature should be trained to become Dhritavrata. This means that they should take a vow to satisfy the senses or enjoy material life only by satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. Activities intended to satisfy the senses or enjoy material life only by satisfying the senses. Activities intended to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord are called Krishnarthe Akhila Chetasa. This indicates that one can attempt all kinds of work, but one should do so to satisfy Krishna. This is described in Bhagavad Gita as Yagyarthat Karma. The word Yagya indicates Lord Vishnu. We should work only for his satisfaction. In the modern times, Kali Yuga, however, people have forgotten Vishnu altogether and they conduct their activities for sense gratification. Such people will gradually become poverty stricken, for they cannot use things which are to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord for his own sense gratification. If they continue like this, there will ultimately be a state of poverty and no grains, fruits, and flowers will be produced. Indeed, it is stated in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam that at the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so polluted that there will no longer be any grains, wheat, sugar cane, or milk.
Thank you, Premarisa, for reading. Prabhu, would you like to read the next?
No, that's okay. You can continue.
Okay. Text 7. Apale tandritacha bhavat bhir lokapalakai chori bhute athal lokaham yagyarthe asagrasa oshadihi. Translation, my dear king, not only are grains and herbs being used by non-devotees, but as far as I am concerned, I am not being properly maintained. Indeed, I am being neglected by kings who are not punishing these rascals who have turned into thieves by using grains for sense gratification. Consequently, I have hidden all these seeds which are meant for the performance of sacrifice. Purport. That which happened during the time of Prithu Maharaj and his father King Vena is also happening at this present moment. A huge arrangement exists for the production of large-scale industrial and agricultural products, but all these products are meant for sense gratification. Therefore, despite such productive capacities, there is scarcity because the world's population is full of thieves. The word chori bhute indicates that the population has turned to thievery. According to Vedic understanding, men are transformed into thieves when they plan economic development for sense gratification. It is also explained in Bhagavad Gita that if one eats food grains without offering them to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Yagya, he is a thief and liable to be punished. According to spiritual communism, all properties on the surface of the globe belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The population has a right to use goods only after offering them to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the process of accepting prasad. Unless one eats prasad, he is certainly a thief. It is the duty of governors and kings to punish such thieves and maintain the world nicely. If this is not done, grains will no longer be produced and people will simply starve. Indeed, not only will people be obligated to eat less, but they will kill one another and eat each other's flesh. They're already killing animals for flesh. And so, when there will no longer be grains, vegetables, and fruits, they'll kill their own sons, and fathers will eat their flesh for sustenance. Text 8. Nunam taviruddhi kshina mai kalena bhuyasa tatra yogena drishtena bhavan adatam arhati. Premarisa, you want to read?
I will hear. Yeah. Thank you.
Translation. Due to being stocked for a very long time, all the grain seeds within me have certainly deteriorated. Therefore, you should immediately arrange to take seeds out by the standard process, which is recommended by the acharyas or shastras. Purport. When there is a scarcity of grain, the government should follow the methods prescribed in the shastras and approved by the acharyas. Thus, there will be a sufficient production of grains and food scarcity and famine can be checked. Bhagavad Gita recommends that we perform yagya, sacrifices. By the performance of yagya, sufficient clouds gather in the sky. And when there are sufficient clouds, there is also sufficient rainfall. In this way, agricultural matters are taken care of. When there is sufficient grain production, the general populace eats grains. And animals like cows, goats, and other domestic animals eat the grass and grains also. According to this arrangement, human beings should perform the sacrifices recommended in the Shastras, and if they do so, there will no longer be food scarcity. In Kali Yuga, the only sacrifice recommended is Sankirtan Yagya. In this verse, there are two significant words, Yogena, by the approved method, and Drishtena, as exemplified by former acharyas. One is mistaken if he thinks by applying modern machines such as tractors, grains, um, can be produced. If one goes to the desert and uses a tractor, there is still no possibility of producing grains. We may adapt various methods, but it is essential to know that the planet Earth will stop producing grains if sacrifices are not performed. The Earth has already explained that because non devotees are enjoying the production of food, she has reserved food seeds for performance of sacrifice. Now, of course, atheists will not believe the spiritual method of producing grains. But whether they believe or not, the fact remains that we are not independent to produce grains by mechanical means. As far as the approved method is concerned, it is enjoined in the Shastras that intelligent men in this age will take to the Sankirtan movement. And by so doing, they shall worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, whose bodily complexion is golden and who is always accompanied by his confidential devotees to preach this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. In this present condition, the world can only be saved by introducing this Sankirtan, this Krishna consciousness movement. As we have learned from previous verses, one who is not in Krishna consciousness is considered a thief. Even though he may be materially very advanced, a thief cannot be placed in a comfortable position. A thief is a thief, and he is punishable. Because people are without Krishna consciousness, they have become thieves, and consequently, they are being punished by the laws of material nature. No one can check this, not even by introducing such men, so many relief funds and humanitarian institutions. Unless the people of the world take to Krishna consciousness, there will be a scarcity of food and much suffering. So all of the purports actually we selected are fairly long and they have a lot packed in each purport. So Prabhu, usually at this point, like we go back to the verses and try to speak about them or summarize them. So if you would like to share.
Okay. It's not real limited time here, so
We can go a little bit over because I didn't realize that these purports are so long, so I picked like 5. So we can go 15-20 minutes over the time. That's fine.
okay. Well, verse 4, the interesting part of this purport is when Srila Prabhupada says that we are inexperienced. And that's a very significant word in this verse, is that we're born into ignorance, we're foolish and a rascal. And then we form democratic governments and pass laws, and which are all meaningless because we're not following the order of the liberated persons. We're not accepting their standards, so we're just inventing our own standards in material life. But as it said in the beginning of the purport, if we do follow these Vedic principles and follow in the footsteps of the great liberated souls, we can actually improve ourselves spiritually and materially. So, we've seen this, that when we surrender to the Lord and we try to chant properly and take part in the process of devotional service and render some service to the devotees or to the deities or to humanity through prasadam distribution or whatever service that is. Generally speaking, material life may improve slightly or even a lot. We saw that example of Srila Prabhupada, who arrived in New York City with nothing. just a few dollars and a bag of cereal and no place to stay, no friends, nothing. I was just reading some of that of his diary entries where he says he has no friends. It's very cold. He doesn't have a place to live. He doesn't know what's going to happen. But he knows that the Lord will provide something for him. And you can see gradually how, materially speaking, things improved for Srila Prabhupada. And then eventually, of course, as you know, he had 108 temples and some very opulent buildings for temples. So, you know, we can read these purports and theoretically understand them, but then when we see the example given by Srila Prabhupada in his own life, that they really become, you can understand that that's real, you know, that's not just theory. Actually, it's practical, you know, we can see it happening. So, you know, that really struck me from this verse.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So I'll share from text. I believe I read this text. So I felt like this text, the translation, and was very relevant for me personally. A foolish person who manufactures his own ways and means through mental speculation and does not recognize the authority of the sages who lay down unimpeachable directions is simply unsuccessful again and again in his attempts. So Srila Prabhupada is very, very kind in reminding us again and again through his purports that to become successful, either materially or spiritually, as Prabhu was explaining, one has to follow the scriptures and the Shastras, as well as those who speak the Shastras. And that is very important. A conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects. He's sure to commit mistakes. He becomes illusioned. He has a tendency to cheat others, and his senses are imperfect. So how we perceive the world because of these 4 defects, including how we perceive ourselves, can become very obscure because of our defects. And these defects are existing because if one is in the modes of passion or ignorance, they cannot understand how things actually are. So it's very important that one takes directions from a liberated person. So a liberated person, as Prabhupada is explaining in this verse, is either a person who is above these modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Even in the mode of goodness, one is able to see things more or less how they are. But when one becomes influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance, one becomes more and more covered from the reality or truth. And when one receives instructions from a person who is actually above the modes, liberated means above the modes of nature, then he's actually able to present the truth as it is. And one can benefit by listening to such instructions. And Prabhupada, even he's so liberal, he's saying, even though a follower may not be a liberated person, if he follows the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then his actions are naturally liberated from the contamination of material nature. So even though like one may not be at that stage where he's completely above the modes of nature, but he's carefully following the instructions given by his spiritual master, then his instructions can also be considered perfect, because he's repeating the instructions of his spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which are both identical. So there is gain, there is immense potency in hearing from Krishna, and the same words being repeated by the spiritual master and other liberated personalities who are around us. even today, and who can impart that unimpeachable instructions of the Lord to the humanity which is completely bewildered under the modes. So this point is very important because nowadays, like it's a common practice. It has become fashionable that people present their own ideas through various Facebook and YouTube and so many different ways they want to propagate something that is different from what is in scriptures. But Prabhupada is again and again like bringing back that point that one has to take instructions from a sadhu who is a liberated person, and then one can perfect his life. So, Primarasa, did you read text 6? Would you like to comment? Hare Krishna. Are you still there, Primarasa?
Yeah. Sorry, I was with Hari and he was speaking also, so I couldn't unmute. So I won't be able to speak much, but of what I read, the essence of what I got from the verses, how non-devotees are actually using all the resources that Krishna has given for their own sense gratification instead of actually using them for the pleasure of the Lord. So, like usually Prabhupada uses this word of lauding it over material nature. So that's basically what I got from the verse, that people are not realizing that all these resources are to be used as yajna or as a form of sacrifice to please the Lord. Instead, they're engaging all the resources to kind of please their own senses. So yeah, that's mostly it from what I got. But somebody can probably explain in a more detailed way. Sorry, I'm with Hari, so I'm not really able to participate as much. So.
Prabhu, would you like to speak on the next 2 verses?
Okay. So
would you like to add anything to what Primarasa has said in this verse?
No, that's fine. No. So we're starting from 7, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, continue on from what the Mataji was saying, that, you know, we get punished for these activities of not using material energy in the Lord's service. And the result of that, of course, is that actually the seeds and the grains and all the vegetables, and they all get withheld because of that. And that's in the next verse, I think. Yeah. So this is the result. Actually, it goes back to that first verse that we read, is that if we don't follow in the footsteps of these enlightened souls, if we don't follow their instruction, even as devotees, if we don't do that properly, the Lord can actually take these things away also. If we don't offer our food to the Lord, the Lord can actually put you into a situation where you will realize that you need to do that. So, you know, we're born in this condition that we're thieves, you know, we're using the material energy for our own sense gratification, and that's what we've been doing for millions and millions of lifetimes. And so that's our conditioning, that we've been doing for so long in the material world that it's just something that we just do. And then when Srila Prabhupada came along and said, no, you can't use this energy for yourself, you have to offer all these things to the Lord. It's like it's a whole different world that we enter into, where we're speaking and we're doing all our activities in relation to the Lord somehow. We're connecting that to the Lord. And so in that consciousness, automatically we just think, oh, there's something nice for the Lord. I can buy that and offer that to the Lord. Or, we want to offer the best for the Lord to enjoy. And then we take the remnants of that, of his enjoyment. So, and but it doesn't, Srila Prabhupada always said, according to our means, we should also do something according to our means. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to always buy opulent things. If that's not within our means, we just offer something very simple. But we don't use that as an excuse not to offer something nice if we do have the means. If we have the means to do that, we should offer the best. But then comes a situation where we're thinking like that, but actually we're just thinking of our own pain. We think, oh, I'll get this very opulent thing and offer it to the Lord, but behind the scenes we're thinking that would be very nice. So I'll offer it to the Lord. So it's kind of a mixed situation. But at least we're somehow thinking of the Lord, and that's why when you go to a temple and you see the offerings, they're quite opulent offerings. Using ghee and very, very nice opulent offerings. But we shouldn't feel bad if we can't come up to that standard, that level of opulence. The main thing is that we're offering everything with devotion, and that's what the Lord sees. He doesn't see that this person or this devotee is offering me something very plain, or this devotee is offering me something very opulent. He's interested in our devotion, and that's our eternal relationship that we're trying to re-establish right now because we've forgotten. And that's our dilemma, that we've forgotten. And that's why we do these things, because we forgot about the Lord and we forgot about our purpose. So the last verse, so you can see the scarcity of grain and insufficient rainfall, etc. That all happens because of this sinful activity, of these simple activities. Sometimes you'll notice if you go to a certain place where there's a lot of simple activities going on, you'll see things like natural disasters, shortage of water, there's no rainfall, or, there's flooding, or there's this or that. So that's the result. And the end result of that is actually stated that eventually there'll be no grains, there'll be no vegetables or fruit, and humans will have to eat each other, which is kind of sounds very bizarre, but as mentioned in the purport, people are already eating meat, and in fact, there's some trend towards people eating fetuses like that didn't survive, which is the beginning. You can see the beginning of that whole stage where things just go so degraded. And that's why it's so important that we, as Prabhupada is saying here, unless the people of the world take to Krishna consciousness, there will be a scarcity of food and much suffering. So, that's our duty, really. I was thinking about this today, actually, that it's nice to have temples and devotees and going to temples and doing the DD worship and kirtan and all the rest of it. But unless we're making devotees, new devotees, that's the purpose, is that we're trying to save humanity. We're trying to save the world, basically, as much as possible. So we need to be making new devotees in temples and have a framework in our temple where we can accommodate new devotees, train them how to be brahmanas, really, is what Prabhupada wanted. And expand the movement like this. So we have to take these statements of Srila Prabhupada very seriously, that, already we can see in Kali Yuga these symptoms are coming now, right now, as we're talking. What to speak of, near the end of Kali Yuga. That by our powerful chanting and by our purity from that chanting, we'll be able to convince the population to take up the spiritual life in whatever capacity they can. It's not like everyone has to join the temple, but they may be practicing at home, chanting 16 rounds and offering. That's what I was doing when I first met the devotees. I was just living at home and I was chanting 16 rounds and offering all my food to the Lord. And so, in whatever capacity, we need to be spreading this Krishna consciousness effectively and convincing people to take up the process. And then the world will change. And, there won't be a shortage or scarcity of food, and there'll be a lot less suffering. All right, I think that's all I can think of to say. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Actually, what you said is so relevant, and I've been thinking about it like more and more. It's very important to go out and preach and bring new devotees and cultivate those devotees. Preaching is the basis of everything in Krishna consciousness. We share what we have with others, and they become inspired and they carry the movement forward. So I'm seeing the importance of that more and more in my life. So I'm very grateful that you brought up this point about preaching and bringing new people to Krishna consciousness. It's an austerity. One has to do more than what is already part of his everyday life and schedule. But I think this is a very important austerity to perform Sankirtan and bring people more and more to Krishna.
Yeah, and also we can do that just by talking to people, people that we work with or people that we associate with. We can just preach to them, show by example is the most powerful way. Talk to them and, convince them somehow. So it's kind of like that's where the Daivavanasam system comes in, is that there's ever increasing circles, and to reach those people on the outside of those circles, sometimes we have to infiltrate into society. And seeing that, the devotees say, if you're a strong devotee, you'll be able to survive that situation, but you have to be a strong devotee, because otherwise you just get contaminated by the whole situation and you start taking their association. But there's so many ways we can convince people, and whatever small way we're doing that, that's all we need to do. Obviously we want to always increase, but if we're doing something at least, then we can sort of expand from there.
Yes. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing and for being here. It means a lot. So thank you, Premarasa, also. I think both of you know each other's because Premarasa used to attend the Japa Zone. So she knows Rasarasika Prabhu through attending those classes, and Premarasa is also my sister. So
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much for joining. It's nice to hear from you again.
Yes, nice to be taking part in these discussions. Be nice to get some more devotees involved in this.
Yeah, Hari wants to participate also. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
we used to have about like 12 devotees, and then somehow like things changed in everybody's life, and we don't have many, but as we continue to speak about Krishna, somehow the Krishna Katha is so attractive. I feel just by being regular, like more people will start to come.
Yeah, or we can sort of advertise this on Facebook or something, or you can tell the devotees at the temple. Just to remind them, some devotees go away, and then if you remind them, they'll think, oh, okay, and they'll come back again.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, so should we pause here for today, and then we again meet tomorrow, 5 o'clock Chicago time.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.